What I often say to people is the trash from your past is not your fault.
That's right.
But it does become your responsibility the second you become aware of it, or you start burying others in yours.
Yep.
I have a process where every single day I have to find one random act of kindness.
Love Gangster with Adrian Boysel.
Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome back to Love Gangster. I'm your host, Adrian Boysel, and today I have a very special episode with a very special guest. I have Mr. Brian Bogert. What's up, brother?
Man, I'm happy to be here with you, Adrian.
Yeah, absolutely. It's good to connect with you. I've been here at this event at Secret Knock, just watching you working away while you're listening. I see you listening and working. I'm like, this guy is getting it. He's hustling. So tell me about you.
I'm a husband and father first. That's the thing I always have to start
Amen.
with. It's the only thing binary in my world, which means my wife and my kids aren't good. Everything else ends. I say that and I lead with that because though I believed that for 25 years, my actions were not always congruent to that statement. And so, that's a big part of my story and my journey is just the elements of things that I had to overcome and really get through and have understanding and perspective on.
Yeah.
To give you some perspective on the depth of where it goes, when I was 7, I was run over by a truck and my left arm was torn from my body. It was reattached, 24 surgeries. And so there's a whole lot that's in there, as I'm sure you can imagine. But today, I coach, I speak, I run masterminds. I've run and exited other businesses.
Wow.
But today I live in what I believe is the whole reason for my existence, which is to allow my truth to give others permission to live theirs. And by doing so, I create a lot of freedom, eliminate a lot of suffering, and help people really step into their power and potential.
That's about as social impact as you can get right there. Did you say you got hit by a bus?
A truck. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. It was like a half-ton truck. Run over, tore my spleen, tire tracks growing my stomach. Yeah, big deal.
It's crazy that this interview is happening because earlier this week I got a call from my wife's best friend and her best friend. They live in Hawaii, and drunk driver ran into their driveway as their child, their 7-year-old child, was in the driveway playing in their own driveway. Got hit by a drunk driver, and it severed his leg, and 2 of the main arteries were cut off. This just happened. And then in high school, on top of this is weird, my best friend in high school, Monty Ladeau, was hit by a bus and lost his left arm, didn't get to keep his left arm. They said he had a huge lawsuit against the hospital because they could have saved it, similar to like what they did with yours, but they actually took his arm. Yeah. So now he's the one arm. He has his license plate, one arm man on his license plate, and still lifts weights and does.
I mean, that's amazing. Like I have a lot of respect for that. But going back to your friends in Hawaii, I just say this as real as I can. I know we're here recording, but dude, if there's anything I can do, if connecting with them, if talking with their kid, if talking with them,
that would be powerful.
Is helpful at all. Okay. I get chills when I say this because there are no coincidences, right? No. And when I got brought into the seat, it wasn't having anything to do with my arm. So the fact that I brought that up was
God's
just
in control of this conversation.
Always, right? It's always perfect. But point is, truly, if there's something I can do to help, I've got a 9 and a 10-year-old myself. As a father now, I can only imagine what they're going through. Yeah,
I got a 5-year-old daughter, and my wife's like, "No more Sonny playing in the driveway." It's like you just never know. In the weirdest place in all places, Hawaii, and it's just like, how does that even happen?
That just goes to show you that there's greater influences than what we have control over, and
that's right.
I think having people understand, getting to that kind of healthy surrender.
Yeah.
And getting to a place where they've got a healthy relationship with mortality is really where we create a lot of freedom in this world. And that's something that, and sometimes until people have a lived experience, they can't really get there.
There's evil in the world and bad things happen, and we can't stop those things from happening. But what happens is made for evil can be used for good. That's what probably is going to happen here is, who knows, maybe just the connection between you and him and his family can change their whole trajectory of their life. And this horrible tragedy where he's being intubated and the leg thing and just a spleen and all this stuff, who knows, maybe in 10 years from now, their life will look completely different and they'll be grateful for the experience that they had. Not that it happened to him, but at least.
But that's where I'm at. I mean, I talk about that. It's been 32 years since my injury, and I would never change a thing. I'm deeply in gratitude for the whole situation, but also the people that were involved. I mean, there was a woman there that day who went into action, and she saved not only my limb but my life.
Wow.
Had she not been there the day, I probably wouldn't be here with you.
That's incredible.
Or I might not have my arm.
Yeah, exactly.
And a whole variety of other things. But it's. I used to believe this was my origin story, my transformation story. And the truth of it is it's just the story that created a bunch of trash from my past that I pushed through and pushed down for years.
Yep. Same.
And, when I shut off physical pain because it exceeded my ability to cope, I shut off mental pain, emotional pain, and spiritual pain for 20 to 25 years and didn't realize it. I'm having all these unconscious patterns that are being activated by cellular memory, reacting to things that are in front of me that have nothing to do with what's in front of me.
Yeah.
Right. And my physical body healed years ago, but those parts didn't.
Yeah.
And
there's still cellular stuff that was hanging on there, right?
Yeah. But it's crazy too, because I lived in daily physical pain for nearly 32 years. And I'm now 18 months with zero physical pain for the first time in my adult life.
Wow.
And so, you know, there's a whole lot about what I've had to go through from a healing perspective that I just really want to continue to impart in the areas of the world that I can touch.
Well, I know that there's people that have gone through horrific things in their life that are going to be watching this. So let's unpack that a little bit. Like, what are some of the things that you did? You lived that way for 25 plus years, 32 years, right? You've had this thing happen since it's happened to you. What are some of the things that you did that you changed that started moving you in the right direction?
So there's layers to every story, as I'm sure you can imagine. And so I'll hit on some of the ones that I think are probably most recent or most relevant. And one of the big areas is I know for a fact it's about a 12 or 13 year journey since I first became aware of the level of shame that I was operating under from a whole variety of things. And it, you know, shame is the ultimate wolf in sheep's clothing because it presents itself as about 50 other emotions. And it was showing up in different ways in my life through perfectionism and control and scarcity and right, but not in ways that I understood. And yet I had built a lot of external success because I didn't have a healthy model for chasing who I was. I had a healthy model for chasing what I wanted. And I had it all by 27. Bank accounts full, I find myself empty. And so it's really been a journey of repair since then. But even a few years after that, right? Like even after I was on this path of doing the work that I'm doing, starting to heal, going through the shame, there were still patterns showing up in my household that I wasn't aware of. I was 35 by the time my wife told me things I'd done, ways I'd shown up, patterns of which still had created a ripple effect that caused her to lose who she was. Wow. While I'm committing the rest of my life to helping others get to the core of who they are and live the lives they want, the one person, right? And so she started to help me see anger. And what I mean by that is I didn't scream at I didn't beat my family. I wasn't abusive to my family, but I have a big energy. Yeah, for sure. And I have a big tone and I have a strong voice and something as simple as just a look can cut somebody to the core. Oh, for and if I have a gift and a skill set to pour life into people, imagine it flipped the other way.
That's right.
And so my wife would say something as simple as this. She'd be like, "Hey, honey, what do you want to do with the kids this weekend?" But my shame and anger filter would cause me to hear it this way. "Hey, honey, you've not done enough to be a good husband and father here recently. So what are you going to do to make up for it this weekend?" Immediately, all of a sudden, I'm like feeling defensive because what did I tell you first? I'm a husband and father first. Now you're challenging me that I'm not, right? So then I puff and feel all of this and I rattle off the 10 things I've done in the last few days to show her I'm a good husband and father. Wasn't even what she asked.
She wasn't asking for that.
Right. And those were moments where I started to slow down long enough to realize that when we are not being received in alignment with our intent, it's our actions that are communicating something different. 100%. And so one of those big lessons, though I've lived it and taught it for a long time, this is where it really started to come into fruition for me, was just the reality that the world's never going to judge you based on your intent. The world's always going to judge you based on your actions.
That's right.
And so for me, stepping into a place of not just awareness, but ownership to what those actions are is where I started to create repair in the damaging areas that I had created. And there's a whole bunch that else goes with that. But I do have to say and close the story just so that everybody knows. My wife and I have been together for 18 years. We hid from each other unconsciously for 14. And she's only felt truly emotionally safe with me for about 36 months.
Wow. That's about everything you just described. There's so many similarities and commonalities. I was just telling my partner and my business partner and my guys here this week that my wife and I are in the best spot that we've ever been in.
That's amazing.
We're just so synced up. We're just so in alignment. We're on the same page. We're communicating at the highest level possible. But it wasn't like that. And it's only been about 36 months. That's happened. We've been together for 7 years. We dated. I met her at 16 at her house party. We dated at 18 and 19. She wanted a serious relationship. I was like, no, thanks. I'm not doing that. And then I kept seeing her throughout all the years. I've been trying to date, was married once before, tried to date and do everything my way. And finally I was like, you know what? This is not working. After the last relationship before my wife, I'm like, I've been trying to do this my way this whole time. I think it's time to just let you take control. Right. And I surrendered. And all of a sudden, the most amazing thing happened. A week later, look at that.
Trust, surrender, breathe. Those were tattooed after that story I told you. Because sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but
it's just important. It's
synchronicities,
really important.
bro. They just keep happening.
It just keeps happening. And so I surrendered to it. And all of a sudden, she popped right back into my life. Sent me a friend request on Facebook. And I'm like, oh my gosh, look who it is. Whitney Mello, right? And now here we are 7 years later. And we both we had traumatic childhoods, lots of abuse. And so we've had to clean up our own side of the street. And neither one of us, it was hard in the beginning, but as we started to see this stuff and the awareness started to happen, we were like, okay, I'm going to take care of my stuff. You're going to take care of your stuff. And when we did, through a lot of different methods and modalities and counseling and therapy and some plant medicine and all the different things that we tried, right? It all helps, right? Shake therapies. I mean, whatever, EMDR, and just doing anything you can to remove those roadblocks. All of a sudden now we're at this place where like, we're going to be together forever.
I love that you did that and that you're getting ahead of it. You know, I think one of the things that's interesting is that most people, when they go down this process of like really raising their level of awareness, they just become more aware of all the ways they should be judging themselves instead of knowing what to do about it. 100%. Right. And I think that what you also highlighted on is that there are these embedded deep patterns. My wife and I traced our triggers back 3 generations.
Wow.
Which means that what I often say to people is the trash from your past is not your fault.
That's right.
But it does become your responsibility the second you become aware of it, or you start burying others in yours.
Yep.
And it's a tangential path that you both have to be walking, because there are elements that both happen external to you,
That's right.
but also connected to you in your relationship. And when I talk about cellular memory, like legitimately, we do create cellular memory. It's been proven and studied. There's 40,000 cells in the heart that are called sensory neurites.
Wow.
They're brain-like cells that carry cellular memory. And they've studied that if you go through the intellectual process of unpacking the patterns of your past alone, and you don't embody the associated emotions to heal them, that you don't heal. Right. And so a lot of what I do is I really help people compress time getting back to the source and understanding the patterns of those cellular reactions so that we can create new patterns and actually help them live into and create the capacity they want in their life.
Well, like that saying goes, somebody handed you $1 million in cash, told you couldn't wake up tomorrow if you take it. You wouldn't take it, right? So our time is obviously the most valuable thing that we have, right? Money is in no comparison to it. And if you can shorten that gap and you can take 10, 15, 20 years of therapy and condense that down to a much shorter time, that's invaluable. So that's really neat. Let's get into a little bit of what you're doing now, because I want to talk, we talked about past, my past, your past, kind of what presently where we've come to. What's the future look like?
So I'm on a mission right now to impact over 1 billion lives as quickly as I can by reducing the level of suffering that exists on this planet. And it won't be Brian Bogert's name behind it. It's going to be collective impact with running with people like you who get it, who understand it, and who can be people who, what I believe is that moved people move people. I'm trying to move as many as I can to move other people, because it's a ripple effect of impact. The ways that we do that in the modalities, we've got shows, we have podcasts, we have all of those things. But what I'm now starting to apply and teaching through other elements in our world as well is how to utilize our voices and the combination of AI to compress time in our external world. Wow. So and that's what I was up on stage real quick to do today, which was totally impromptu. I was talking to Greg and I said, hey, dude, you're doing AI. I want to talk to you about this thing. And he goes, just get up on stage and do it. And so I throw my drone up there and I talk about it. But I've done so much in the content creation space. I've been a guest on over 1,000 podcasts in the last 4 years. I run a lot of my own shows, and I don't say any of this with ego or bragging, but what I really wasn't paying attention to is that I, until a month ago, had never logged on to the ChatGPT website.
Whoa.
Because there was a block in my own mind, but where it was coming from me is that I didn't want my voice to be diluted by the external world. And until I figured out how to use AI to use and capture my voice, I wasn't going to do it. Why? Because it creates confusion in the marketplace. There's all of a sudden these overnight thought leaders who've never had an original thought in their lives that are now writing these eloquent long form things. And you're like, you couldn't even string together a sentence 2 years ago. How are you writing long form content, right? So I stayed away from it until a couple of breakthroughs. So one of the things I showed on there was the Hover X1 drone, which is an AI-based drone that is basically like having a cameraman in your pocket. Wow. So there's a mode that will go out in front of you, and if you're walking forward, it'll back up, it'll track you, it'll loop circles, and and it does audio, it can do vertical capture, all of these things. But then this is the other thing that I was showing today. It's called the Plod, and it's recording right now. But what this Plod is, it's an AI-based tool. So it will grab transcripts or summaries of what's taking place. Yeah. Now, you can use this for many reasons, like capturing meeting notes and whatever, but I keynote speak a lot. I train a lot. We run mastermind calls every week. We run community calls every week. So I can pull transcripts in different ways, but I'm like, how do I compress time?
That's right.
So I just gave an example. I talked about this on stage. Last week, I gave a keynote to an organization. I put this down and let it record my keynote talk. I took this as soon as it was done, got the transcript, pulled it, put it into ChatGPT with some very specific prompts, which were about writing it only based on the information that was in the transcript, i.e. what am I feeding it, not the broad aggregate information on the web.
That's exactly
And to write it in the voice of me, who is the only voice that was recognizable on there, and to write a summary article in the style of Forbes. I took that. It is unbelievable how accurate that is when you feed it with the right information and ask the right questions.
When you give it the right data set.
Which is everything in life and human interaction too. I'm only as good as my questions.
That's right. And they call it artificial intelligence. I think it should be advanced intelligence.
Totally. So my buddy Adam Lyons is the one that got me on the spark. Lyons, so he got me on the spark around going down this path and brainstorming back and forth. But here's what I was blocking on was I didn't know how to capture my voice. Well, 2 things are happening now. One, literally, I did this 10 minutes. I had an article, put it up onto Craft, which gave me a link. I sent the link to the CEO 30 minutes after the keynote was done to give a summary of the talk and for the people who were there, as well as the people who missed it.
Neat.
Blew him away. He's like, what? How did you do this? And it was all their language, their company name, because it used only the transcript to write the article. And so that was a great example. But the other thing is it supports everything else I've been teaching, which is that we have to ethically leverage other people's platforms to build relationships, add value, and create impact. That's the podcasting whole approach.
That's
right? What I didn't understand is there's so much of my voice on the internet that I don't even have to feed it for it to write on my voice.
This is so true.
And so again, it's all about the prompts. And so what am I doing now? I'm taking what I know I do for people internally with systems and processes and content and messaging and helping them scale businesses. And I'm now applying different tools to help people capture their voice more authentically and to do it in a compressed amount of time.
Smart.
Because that's, again, the one thing we can't create more of.
Yep.
So I'm playing.
That's
a
right.
lot.
You're having a lot of fun.
But that's what I am having fun with right now is it's a creative wonderland.
That's
like
incredible.
if you can look at it through a place of exploring versus like, oh, I've got to get the best article or the best piece of copy or right. Like you can just play and have fun, which is how we grow our businesses and lives anyway.
That's how we should be. Yeah. I mean, Let's Play Business is my kids' book that I've been working on. It's principles from Let's Play Business, grandpa, grandma, mom, dad, brother, sister, right? All these concepts. Every person in your life is going to have these different principles. And it's about play. Like play is a very important thing for men
100%
to do. And people lose sight of that as we become adults. So I don't have time for play. I don't have time for this. I don't have time for that. Right?
Yeah.
I got to work. I got to make money. I got to provide for my family. And you lose that part of yourself. That's where those creative juices come from. And that's where the biggest innovations come from.
It's all there.
Yeah,
and what's funny is 5 years ago, I didn't even believe I was a creative person, even though I'm highly creative.
Right. And my business partner said the same thing.
And so it's like we just have to find those avenues and find the ways to stop protecting ourselves in ways because of the fear of judgment, criticism, shame. Anything that we need to justify, protect, or defend is what disconnects us from this world and our creative sense.
That's awesome, man. What a great conversation. So we like to challenge everybody that comes on the show of going out there and make somebody's day, week, month, year better in some way. What is one thing that somebody can watch in this interview and go, oh, I'm going to go do that today?
I'm actually going to give two because I want to give one that's been a daily practice of mine for a long time because I love that you do that. I have a process where every single day I have to find one random act of kindness. And the random act of kindness might be holding open the elevator when somebody's running with their arms full. It might be buying the Starbucks behind you. But find one way to create an impact in the world, whether you talk to that person or not. The second piece is if you really want to understand how much of your voice is out there and how you can utilize AI to do it, just go to ChatGPT and literally type the question, do you know, insert your name, and see what it comes back with.
There you go.
The first time I did that, literally the first time I logged into the website a month ago, I did that and I was blown away by what it came back with. And then my mind started to open to possibility. And I would suggest that anybody who hasn't already asked that question is missing an opportunity right now.
Beautiful. Well, there you go. There's the challenge. Go do a random act of kindness for somebody and report back to me. I want to hear about it. I'm the Love Gangster. That's your challenge. If you don't do it, you'll be swimming with the fishes, capiche? So with that being said, I'm Adrian Boysel. Thank you so much for being on here, brother. And we'll see you guys on the next episode. And as always, keep looking up.
Came here to fill the void. I am love. I am peace. I am joy that can never be destroyed. I am love.